Welcome to the Worldwise Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and this podcast is your guide to building a truly borderless life. From entrepreneurship, investment migration, tax optimization, and everything in between, this show highlights the nuances of a global citizen lifestyle. Let's dive in. In this episode, I'm going to be going over some of the essential apps that you can expect to have or download on your phone prior to you visiting Paraguay for the first time. So, of course, we go over some of the essential communication apps that are physically used in the country of Paraguay for food delivery, for translations, for telecommunications, and so much more. So, if you are going to Paraguay in the near future, this is going to be the guide for you. I've been living in Paraguay for the last 6+ months, and I've been coming to the country of Paraguay for the last 3 years. Now, in this time, there has been significant change to the country, specifically in Asunción, but there are always apps that I find myself going back to when I come to Paraguay. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about what some of these apps are in Paraguay and the apps that we highly recommend you downloading and having on your phone before your arrival in Paraguay, and then some of the difficulties and or hiccups surrounding these apps. So the first app that we're going to discuss without a doubt is WhatsApp. If you have lived anywhere in Latin America, you are likely very well versed with WhatsApp. It is where you are able to not only contact friends and family, but I also have contacts of doctors, dentists, various different professionals. Their direct line to WhatsApp, not simply the receptionist. So the entire continent does use WhatsApp, is very well versed in this platform, but that is no different in Paraguay. Now, when you come to Paraguay, and especially if you're living in Paraguay longer term, you may be looking to obtain a Paraguayan phone number, which we are going to talk a little bit about later in this video, as having these apps on your phone can also be essential for your peace of mind in Paraguay. But if you are going to be having a Paraguayan phone number, we recommend also downloading WhatsApp Business. Now, you can have your country's phone number from your home country on WhatsApp Personal, but through WhatsApp Business, you're able to have a second WhatsApp account without having to log in or log out, especially if you're on an iPhone, from your accounts on WhatsApp every time you want to switch between accounts. So even if you don't have a business based in Paraguay, you can still get WhatsApp Business, link your Paraguayan phone number to WhatsApp Business, and I find that this is much easier to message back and forth with businesses in Paraguay, as they do often think that you are local when you have a local Paraguayan phone number. So this is one hack that many of our clients like to use. Now, the second apps you're going to want to have on your phone are the ride share apps. What I'm going to quickly touch on before getting into what the two main rideshare apps are in Paraguay is that when you first touch down, and I remember multiple years back when we first touched down at the airport in Asunción, the Wi-Fi is not strong. So you really do want to make sure that you have a valid SIM card either in Paraguay with preloaded data, or you want to make sure that you have an eSIM on your phone. I'm going to talk later on in this video about some of the eSIMs that we personally recommend for our clients when they first touch down in Paraguay. But as the Wi-Fi is not strong at the airport, you are typically going to want to use your data and with that be able to call a rideshare platform. Now, there are taxis at the airport. Typically the fees are going to be much higher, and especially if it's your first time in Asunción or in Paraguay in general, you won't know what the average fees are to expect. So I highly recommend using Uber or Bolt. Are the two platforms that are the best and most commonly used rideshare platforms in Paraguay. There is a local Paraguayan company called Move, MUV, and I have personally had some issues downloading and registering on Move, but I'm sure that will be resolved in the future. A nice aspect of Move is that you can actually input your RUC number and get facturas for your rides, which you cannot do with Uber or Bolt since they are not local Paraguayan company. Now, over the years of traveling throughout Paraguay, there have been some safety issues, specifically with the Bolt app. Now, I know that this does happen in other regions throughout the world, but typically with the Bolt app, about 50% of the time, you will get the driver with the proper license plate on the car, But then about another 50% of the time, you will find that the license plate that is in the app that you're expecting to see is not the license plate that is on the car. This arises for various different issues, but you will likely see this if you use Bolt from time to time in Paraguay, and many of the locals are also aware of this issue. So for safety reasons, we typically recommend only using Uber. Uber is slightly more costly. You're looking at maybe 50 cents to $1 more for a very standard 10-15 minute ride. It's a very small additional fee to use Uber, and we highly recommend, just for safety reasons, to use Uber, especially when you're new to Paraguay. So next up, we have delivery apps. Now, there is one main delivery app in Paraguay. It is not a Paraguayan company, it is a Uruguayan company, but there is also a more up and coming app for delivery food that is Paraguayan based, and you will see throughout Paraguay that there are various different delivery apps popping up throughout the country. Now, the most common is called Pedidos Ya. We will link the link for Pedidos Ya and all of these apps below. Pedidos Ya is an Uruguayan based company, but they spread throughout all of the major cities in Paraguay. A nice thing about Pedidos Ya is that while the platform is not quite as friendly the UX as, let's say, Uber Eats or DoorDash, you are able to input your RUC number, and anywhere where you order delivery from, they will send you a factura along with your food. So that is a nice aspect of Pedidos Ya. Now, the other app, it is less popular, and you will still find not as many restaurants or brands on this app as Pedidos Ya, but it is up and coming, and it is called Munchies. So this is a local Paraguayan-based company. They do also give you facturas with your orders once you order. So that is a nice aspect as well if you're looking to collect your facturas monthly. But these are the two biggest and most recommended apps for delivery service in Paraguay. Now, next up, we have an app that is not going to be essential, but it is more of a governmental app. It's called Paraguay Portal. It has been around for multiple years in Paraguay. Once you get your residence, you are able to essentially view your residence digitally, your driver's license, anything else that the government would have files of. You're able to view this directly in the Paraguay Portal app. You do have to sign up using your cedula number, and then through that, you can essentially just keep it on your phone if you do ever need to see any of this documentation digitally. Again, this is not a required app. It is not an essential app that you will need when coming to Paraguay, but it is nice to have the peace of mind of having your documentation, your cedula number, your RUC number, your driver's license, and the number of that directly on your phone. Now, next up, we're going to talk about some banking. Now, I have previously discussed that banking in Paraguay can be quite difficult as we face with many of our clients, and it does take a few months to truly get into the banking system. However, there are some apps that we recommend downloading. Wise specifically, while Wise is not in Paraguay, you can still use Wise from anywhere in the globe with your previous country of residence if it is still linked to that residence. So that is an option to simply get money in and out of the country, withdrawing from ATMs. Now, once you have your cedula, you will then be able to open other bank accounts within Paraguay with Paraguayan institutions. One of the ones that we typically recommend for our clients, simply because it is easier to navigate this system, this UX is going to be much easier, and it's more of a fintech bank than most of the other traditional banks in Paraguay, is Weno. We are big fans of Weno. A lot of our clients use Weno and have quite high limits with Weno accounts once they have the correct filing and the correct documentation. So Weno is definitely an app that you are going to want to download, along with all of the other banks. We will link the video below for banking in Paraguay, where I go into detail on the banking institutions that you can expect in Paraguay, how to get access to these banking institutions, and work your way up to higher limits and eventually getting into the credit system. So next up, we have phone plans in Paraguay. Now, there are now 3 main companies in Paraguay for phone plans and telecommunications, but traditionally there were really 2. So it is Tigo and Claro. Most Paraguayans and foreigners who have lived in Paraguay for a longer period of time do have opinions on which is superior. I have personally found, having used both for over a year of each plan, I have found that Tigo is much more reliable, beneficial. I was not able to get service in many areas throughout the country with Claro. However, with certain plans with Claro, there is international roaming at a lower price. And if you are looking to get in on a basic phone plan, then Claro is usually going to be the better price for a post-paid annual contract. So between these two, I would typically recommend Tigo. I do recommend trying out both. Let us know in the comments below if you have experience with either Tigo or Claro. Now, there is a third player more recently in Paraguay called Personal Play. I have not personally tried it, but I have many Paraguayan friends who do have it, and service is quite spotty. While the prices are lower and Personal Pay is popping up throughout the country, I would still be wary of this as it is a newer service with very spotty signal. So next up, we're going to look at eSIMs. If your phone does support eSIM, when you first arrive into Paraguay, you're going to want to make sure, again, simply to get a taxi, an Uber, a Bolt from the airport to your hotel or Airbnb. Likely you're going to want to make sure that you have an eSIM. I would not rely on the one very unreliable network that is in the Asuncion airport. So the eSIMs that we typically recommend are Red Tigo or Nomad are two great options that are cost effective. They have plans throughout all of Latin America or specifically in Paraguay. We recommend most of our clients for the first 2 or 3 days to have an eSIM plan. And then if you speak Spanish, even without having a cedula number, you're able to go into a Tigo or a Claro and to get a prepaid account. Now, if you want a postpaid option, you're typically going to need a cedula number and then a RUC if you would like to declare that as a business expense in Paraguay. But you can also get prepaid options with the major telecommunications company once you have settled in Paraguay. Now, last up, if you don't speak Spanish or you are not fluent in Spanish, the Paraguayan accent I find is quite standard, but there is certainly an accent when you're comparing the accent from other countries in Latin America. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a Translate app on your phone. Now, Google Translate typically does just fine, although it is certainly not perfect translations. If you are looking for certain word translations and not translating a whole phrase, we typically recommend to our clients to use word reference. If you have some understanding of Spanish, but you're just simply looking to fill in the gaps and to look for words here and there in your sentences, word reference is really going to give you a more accurate depiction of what that word would be and how you can conjugate that word. But if you're just simply looking for on the ground, quick and easy translations where you can either type or where you can voice and then they can voice back to you on the other end, or they can simply read what you have written through your voice dictation, then Google Translate is always a good option. You've just listened to the Worldwise Wealth podcast. Visit our links in the show notes below or at worldwisecapital.com to learn more about how we can assist in your borderless diversification journey. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode.